Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial I'm going to be sharing with you how to make this dress with a structured ruffle sleeve. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So here is my pattern that we already cut out in our previous tutorial, and as you can see I added ½ inch all the way around, and at this part I added ½ inch all the way around. So I'll just go ahead and unpin my pattern. After unpinning it, I'll go ahead to open it. I have both the lining and the main fabric. So on the lining I will be ironing an stay, and I'll also go ahead and unpin this. So I've also gone ahead to cut out the main fabric and also the lining. So for the lining I'll be ironing a stay on it and a stay on it, or you can use a soft wadding. So here is my pattern now, and I'm going to use it to cut out the part for my wadding. So after now, from this point I'm just going to cut it all the way after my bust measurement, or nipple to nipple plus ½ inch. So here is my wadding, and I will use it to cut it out. All I'll do is to place it. So you can add ½ inch on top, but I don't usually add that because I feel you're still going to chop it off. So all I'll do is just to cut exactly at the upper part and add ½ inch by the side where I'll be using for my sewing allowance. So at the lower part I'll cut exactly what I have here, and I'll be adding ½ inch in front of this part. So here is what I have, and I'm just going to go ahead to unpin it, and I'll iron it to my fabric. So while placing it on my fabric, because I didn't add ½ inch on top, I will be leaving ½ inch before placing it, and make sure that it sits directly at your underbust. So next I'm going to go ahead to also place this, and make sure that the part that you're placing on the main fabric is the shiny part of the wadding. That is the part that has the gum, and I will go ahead and place it this way. So after I'm done ironing my wadding on it, this is what I have, and I'll go ahead to pin. So I'm using a light wadding. I don't have much bust, so I don't like too much padding on my dress. If you're using a thick wadding, you follow this process, unless you're using a cup for your bustier. So I'll just go ahead and pin, and I'll be stitching with ½ inch at both sides. So after that we'll move over to the back, and as you can see I added ½ inch on top at the lower part and the other side. So I'll also go ahead to add ½ inch at the upper part by the side and also by the lower part of this dress. So I'll just go ahead and open up the back pattern this way, and I notched those parts to indicate the part that I will be joining together with ½ inch. So I'll just go ahead and iron this with ½ inch, and on the lining I'll iron a stay on it and also join it with ½ inch. So this is it. I've gone ahead to join it, and this is what I have. This is the lining piece. I'll go ahead to place it on it this way, and I will be stitching with ½ inch all the way, and also stitch with ½ inch on this side. So the next side, or the next step, is to work on my skirt pattern, and I will unpin it and I will open it up. This is what I have. We'll be working on the front part. So on the lining piece I took out 1 inch from it, and I'll place it on it this way. So what I will do right now is just to go ahead to push my lining down and stitch with ½ inch. After stitching with ½ inch, this is what I have, and after that I'll just pull up my skirt this way, just the way I'm pulling it up, and then I'll measure about 1 inch starting from that initial ½ inch we stitched down, and I'll also repeat this at this other side. That is the 1 inch. Start measuring from the initial ½ inch that you sewed on, and you're going to pin. So I'll just go ahead and pin my skirt all the way to the upper part. So when you take it up this way, you notice that the skirt will be meeting with the lining now, and I'll just pin to the other side, and I'll be stitching it down with ½ inch. So I'll also repeat the same process for the back pattern of the skirt, and after I was done turning both of them, this is what I had, and I went ahead to iron it out. So next step is to go ahead to insert that to it. I'll fold my skirt this way, mark the midpoint. From there I'll mark my nipple to nipple come down by 4 inches and draw a straight line. I'll mark ½ inch on both sides and connect it all the way down. So you can use a 4 inches dart or a 6 inches dart. Go ahead and repeat the same process I did for this part at the other side, because for your skirt at the front you have 2 darts, and I'll also go ahead to connect to the end. After this, I'll be stitching with ½ inch, but before stitching we'll also mark out the back dart. So I'll just go ahead and pin it down, and after I'm done pinning, I'll be marking 1 inch, which is my zipper allowance, and then from there I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, come down by 4, and I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides. Go ahead to connect. So that is my dart for the back. So for my zipper line, I will go ahead to extend it all the way down, measure about 8 inches, and after that 8 inches I will go ahead to stitch the lower parts a bit. So I'll just come down about 4 or 5 inches and I'll mark it this way. So I'll just go ahead and stitch that part. That is the closure for the back part of the skirt. So whatever I did for the other side, I'll also go ahead and repeat it. Mark that 8 inches for my zipper, and then go ahead to mark this and also measure what I measured on this part, and I will reconnect it. Now we'll be heading over to the upper part, where I'll go ahead and measure my nipple to nipple after the zipper line. Go down by 4 inches, and I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides of my pattern to connect for my dart. So after I'm done doing that, after I'm done sewing my dart, this is what my skirt looks like. And also for the back pattern, this is what I have. I'll go ahead and iron it out. So here is the back pattern, which I have turned already. So what I'll do is to place this and stitch with ½ inch, and also place the other side and I'll stitch with ½ inch. So I'll be attaching a zipper to it much later. So here is my sleeve. Here is the front sleeve that I'm pinning right now, and here is the back sleeve. So if you notice, the sleeve is a bit higher than normal. It is more of a structured sleeve. It has a boning on it. So I'm just going to place this far apart. You can measure 4 to 5 inches. I used 5 inches and later I reduced it to 4 inches because I felt it was a bit too high. So I'll just go ahead and pin this, and I'll be cutting this out. Before cutting out, I'll be adding ½ inch on both sides and at the lower part, which will serve as a turn up allowance for this dress, and for the lower part it will serve as a joining allowance to the dress. So after I'm done cutting this, I'll be also cutting for another sleeve, and I'll be cutting out the lining part. So for the lining, you can use the same fabric, or you can decide to use a lining, and you can iron a stay to it, or you can just turn it up with your lining, but because you're still going to add a boning to it. The only difference is that if you add a stay, you might not have difficulties while you're passing your boning through your lining, and your sleeve will be more structured than when you don't have a stay on it. So this is it. I'll just go ahead and stitch it up with ½ inch, then turn to the right side, and I will top stitch to create 2 boning channels or boning casing at the 2 sides. So here is my sleeve, and now after joining the front part of my dress, I'm going to be attaching my sleeve together with it. So after now, I'll just go ahead and take this and pin. Please note the part that is supposed to be the front sleeve, and at this point I'll also place here and I will pin it. After I'm done pinning it, I'll go ahead and place the lining on it, and I'll also pin it together. After pinning the upper part, I'll go ahead to pin the sides. So make sure that the joining you have at the bust side on the lining also matches with what you have on the main fabric. I'll go ahead and also pin this side of the dress also before stitching. So you can just go ahead and run ½ inch all the way around, then notch it, or just go ahead and stitch ½ inch at the upper part and then push all your sewing allowance to the lining, then go ahead to stitch this side. So any method you decide to use is still okay. So after I'm done sewing, I'll just go ahead and give it a good notch all around. I'll just notch it closely to the line, and I'll just go ahead to turn it to the right side. And after that, I'll be ironing it out with my tailor's ham. So I don't have any source of light, I'll just go ahead and iron it inside. So after I'm done ironing, this is what I have. And next we'll be joining this to our skirt pattern that we have already turned with our lining. So I'll just go ahead and pin this and stitch it with 1/2 inch. So after I'm done stitching, I'll bring my back pattern or my back dress, which I have added zipper to, and I'll place it on it, and we'll go ahead to shape the dress. So I'll just go ahead and pin it off the camera. So after that, I'll place my tape and I'll mark my underbust at this point. After I'm done marking my underbust, which is 12 inches, I'll go ahead to place my tape from that underbust and mark my bust. Then from there, I'll go ahead to mark my waist. Then measure 7 inches to mark my hip point. So I'll be using a method to shape a bustier. So at that bust point, I'll measure what I have in the middle. So what I have there is 6 inches and my bust is 33 inches. So 33 inches divided by 2, I have 16.5. So taking out these 6 inches from this 6.5, I'll have 10.5 inches left. So that 10.5 inches, I'm going to divide it into 2. And what I have will be approximately 5.25. While I'll mark 5 inches instead of marking 5.25. So why I'm doing this is to make sure that this part is fitted at the bust area. So when I'm marking it, I'll go in a little. I'll measure what I have here, which is that same 6 inches. My other bust measurement is 28 divided by 2, I have 14. 14 minus 6, I have 8. That 8 inches, I'll divide it by 2. Dividing it by 2, I have 4. I'll mark 4 by both sides. Here, I'll measure what I have, and I have 9 inches. My waist circumference is the same with my underbust, which is 28 divided by 2, I have 14. So I'm going to go ahead to take out that 5 inches from that 14 inches, and what I have will be 9.5. So that 9.5, I'll divide it into 2 and I'll mark at both sides. So I'll go ahead to mark to the end. So after this, I'll measure what I have at the hip point. So for this pattern, the hip is actually not fitted, but for me, I want mine to be fitted. So my hip is 40 divided by 220. What I have here is 22. If I take out that 20 inches from 22, I have 2 inches left. Sharing it at both sides, I will have 1 inch. So coming down here, I'll mark 1.5 at the lower part and also mark 1.5 at the other part of my pattern. So if you don't want your pattern to be fitted, you're not going to be using your exact measurement. So at the hip part, I went in a little to avoid having ear. So next we'll be working on the ruffle part of the sleeve. So my total length here is 39. This is the fabric that I have left. So on this part, it is 8.5 inches on fold, meaning it's 17 inches. So here is actually smaller, so I'm still going to create a curve at this part, and I'll extend it all the way to the lower part of my material. So for this ruffle, you're actually supposed to use more than this, but this is the fabric that I have left, so I'm just going to be working with it, and I have 2 of these. So after cutting this out, I'll place this on the other one. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and run 1/2 inch on it, and this is it. After doing that, I turned it to the right side. So please do not iron your fabric at this point, if not it will be flat and not create a ruffle on your dress. So after this, I'll just go ahead and pass the boning to my dress. That is the boning casing area, or the boning channel that I created on the sleeve, and after that I'll cut it. So make sure that your boning gets to the end of your sleeve. If not, it might not stand very well when you attach it to your dress. So I'll go ahead and continue passing the boning to the boning channel that I have here, and also I'll repeat it at the other side of my dress. So after that, I'll cut off the boning and you'll be placing it at the back with 1/2 inch this way, and you will top stitch on it. And I'll also repeat this same thing at the other side of the sleeve, and then I'll run a gather stitch on this. So this is it after I'm done attaching the structured sleeve on it, and next we'll be attaching the ruffle to it. So here's the part that I have a gather on, and I'll also repeat the same process at this part. I will be using my needle and thread to stitch it. You can also go ahead and use your machine to achieve this, but I'll just use my needle and thread to gather it. So after that, at this end, you're also going to gather it to the end of the sleeve this way. So after that, I'll just go ahead and tie. So just like I said, I don't have too much fabric for the ruffle sleeve, but I'll just be working with what I have left. So next, you're going to place it and you're going to pin it, and make sure that the ruffle extends to the end of your sleeve. So I'll go ahead and pin this, and after pinning it, I'll be sewing it on the sleeve. That is the middle part of the sleeve that does not have a boning on it. So after this, I'll just go ahead and start tacking to create the ruffle. So my ruffle is a bit smaller than what we have because my fabric is smaller. So if you're going to make this sleeve, you're going to use about 30 inches by 60 to get maybe a fuller result on your sleeve. So I'll just go ahead and pick it and pin it together. So after pinning it, I'll go ahead and tack the sleeve down. So I'll also be repeating this at the other side of my sleeve also to get the same effect. After picking and tacking, I'll go ahead and top stitch it at the back, and also go ahead to pick the next one, tack it on top, and then go ahead to just tack it down little at the back to hold down the ruffle. So while you're doing this, you'll not be doing it on a straight line, you'll just be picking different points or make it like in a zigzag way to create a more fuller effect. So I'll just go ahead and repeat this at the other side of my sleeve. So after I'm done sewing, this is what I have. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us in our next video. Thanks.